Welcome back to the WFT Declassified Podcast. This is your official home for all things Washington Commanders. Stay locked in, get locked in, subscribe. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube right now. It's right there. Hit subscribe, click notifications. It's a little bell icon. Make sure you're plugged in because, like we always say, it's only going to get better from here. If you are listening to us on the audio platforms, any one of them, Amazon, Spotify, Apple, Google, whatever your flavor, we appreciate you. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you've left a review. And make sure you told somebody about us. We appreciate you. Brian, guess what? Football season is in the air. Can you smell it, man?
Absolutely. Guys are out on the field getting ready for the season. I can't wait, man.
Yeah. Hopefully, Eric will be able to join us in a little while. He is checking out the new location for the Commanders in Northern Virginia, and he's on his way back.
He's leading that advanced scout team there, looking for property. So he's doing some good work.
Yeah, either that or he's fronting the $100 million they put on the land, one or the other. But shout out to Eric. So look, the grass is cut, the field is getting ready. The players are on the field in practice jerseys. OTAs are here. On a scale of 1 to 10, right? How excited do you get for the OTAs starting?
I get pretty excited. So I'm about a 7. I'm about a 7. If guys are out on the football field, I'm going to be excited. I love football, and I love to see, especially when we've got new players and we get to see some of these rookies for the first time in live action, just to see what they look like. We know it doesn't mean too much, but it's your first time seeing them in a Commander's uniform. Very excited.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. Like this whole preseason, including the offseason OTAs, training camp, some of that, it's some of my favorite time of the football season. Yeah. And I think that's a little bit of being burned, with so many bad seasons during the actual regular season, that this is a time to start over new. Everything's new. It's exciting. Like you said, there's new rookies, everybody's 0-0. You never know what can happen, right? So everything is still possible. The Super Bowl is still possible at this point. So
that's it.
Definitely some of my favorite time of the year. Anyway, I'm not going to wax poetic anymore about the OTA aspect of it, but there are some big things that are going on at the OTAs that I want to get your thoughts about. And let's start with the Terry situation, because I think this is on everybody's mind right now. What's going on with Terry? I think it's expected that he's not going to be there, but Terry's such a good guy that we always think he's just going to do what's the right thing in our mind and just show up and play for free. But this is a business. That's not going to happen. How big of a deal is it that, number one, he's not at OTAs, but number two, it came out today that Jahan Dotson has not heard from him. So, Brian, tell me, for both of those things, how big of a deal is it?
So is it a big deal for me? No, not yet at this time. But it is. It does make me raise an eyebrow. Like I am kind of looking at this one a little bit sideways here. We heard the report early last week, I believe, that the Commanders have been earmarking funds for this Terry extension, right? That they've been planning, which they don't seem to do a lot of planning in most areas. So the fact that they've been planning for Terry's extension is a good sign. But still, we've known about this for so long. We know when his contract was coming to an end. Why are we waiting? We waited so long to get Jonathan Allen's deal done last year. It actually came with the end of June, I believe, like the 27th or 24th of June. And Jonathan Allen actually had to call Ron Rivera and say, hey, what's going on? Can we get this deal done? And the deal got done. J.D. McKissick, we didn't even offer him. And then he decides to go to Buffalo, and he's on the plane, and here we come running down the runway to try to get him to stay. So it is a little bit concerning, but I'm not concerned yet. We do have more time before training camp. We do have a couple of more weeks before I think we get into that, DEFCON 5, and that we really need to start worrying. So not that concerned, but it does kind of make me raise an eyebrow to say, like, hopefully this doesn't get worse.
Yeah, you know what, Brian? I'm not concerned for Terry's sake, right? Like, I truly believe that this organization knows they need to do the right thing and get a deal done. That the contract parameters for this, I think, should be a lot easier than it used to be, because really what happens is guys get slotted, right? You have your top paid receivers. Some guys set the market. I don't think anyone thinks that Terry's going to set the market at the receiver price, but you did just have a comparative deal done with AJ Brown, right?
Yep.
People put Terry and AJ Brown in the same category, right? So you have the framework to work from in terms of a contract. I would love to see it get done. I'm not that concerned about it. What I am a little nervous about is that Carson Wentz is here now. He's here and he's throwing, but he's not throwing to Terry, right? And I would love to see Terry and Carson forming chemistry and rhythm together in a practice scenario. We're missing out on that. I understand the business aspect of it, but every rep that those two can get together, I think is only going to make us better. So I would love to see those two being able to work out together right now, but I do understand. As for the Jahan Dotson aspect of it, are you surprised that Jahan Dotson has not heard from Terry thus far?
Yeah, I am a little surprised. Everything that we've seen from Terry these past 3-4 years, whatever it's been, he's been a stand-up dude, no matter what. Even when, we've had some really awful seasons, some really bad quarterback play, Terry's never said a cross word about anybody. Even when the defense has been miserable, he's never said anything. Or, no matter what kind of controversy is happening, either on the football team or outside of the football team, he's never said anything. So the fact that he didn't reach out, maybe even a text message just to say, hey, welcome to the team, we'll get together in a few weeks or something when this contract thing's over. Nothing like that. That is a little odd, but to me, it almost feels like that's coming from an agent, because I think we've gotten to know Terry pretty well through his interviews, through him speaking. He seems to be a really stand-up guy. So that kind of feels like that's something coming from an agent saying, hey, you've got to cut off all communications until we get this deal done. No phone calls, no text messages, no interviews, no showing up at practice, all those types of things. So it does seem a little out of character, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's coming from an agent telling him, hey, we want to put the full court press on to get this deal done.
Yeah, likewise. I'm not offended by it, and I don't think Dotson should be either. No. Once again, it's a business. It is a little surprising. You spoke of the character and the high character of Terry McLaurin. So it's only surprising in the sense that we hold him in such a high regard. Yeah. It's a typical tactic when it comes to negotiations. At least we haven't yet got to the point where Terry is wiping his social media of any commanders.
Oh, please don't. No. There'll be protests and riots if that happens. If Terry scrubs his social media, there's going to be a lot of upset people. So hopefully we don't get there.
Yeah. We're not there yet. And I don't believe that we'll get there. By the way, I find that to be such a stupid tactic. What does it really gain by you cleansing your social media of your current team? Come on.
And then when you get the contract, all of a sudden everything magically repopulates back on your website. Like, come on. What was that going to do? Whose feelings got hurt because you scrubbed a picture of yourself with a jersey on? Give me a break.
Yeah, exactly. So, look, Duron Payne walked off the field today at practice. He's upset about his deal. Mm-hmm. And clearly he wants his money, and I don't blame him, right? Football's a violent game. You only get so many paydays in your lifetime.
That's it.
Let's just stick with big deal or not a big deal for Daron Payne walking off of practice. What do you think, man?
It is a little bit of a big deal, and it's a big deal because kind of everything that we've seen so far, up until this point, we even read, some of the reporting that the, Commanders weren't going to extend Daron Payne. And even at that particular time, nothing really happened. Daron didn't, make any kind of comments. So everything kind of seemed like, hey, maybe Daron, wants to get to free agency and that he'll play this year out and head on his way. Very similar to like a Brandon Sheriff where, he's just focusing on moving on. So, for him to walk off today, because of the contract, one tells me he actually wants to stay here, which, we had the fight with him and Jonathan Allen at the end of last season. And I believe you just mentioned it. He scrubbed his social media after that fight. I think his Instagram, he removed some of the team, pictures from his Instagram, I think was reported after that fight. So, it is a little concerning. And especially too, if you're in an organization, there comes a point in any negotiation where the player does not want to sign long-term and he wants to get to free agency. At that point, the organization has to say, are we going to keep him around for this last year where he may be a malcontent, where he may not give his full effort, or do we try to trade him and move on, from the player from this situation? And or when the team may say, you know what, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. We're not going to extend you. So, let's find you another home that, maybe a better fit, and maybe they want to extend you. But to leave this kind of hanging, just to think that, people are going to be okay with this situation kind of left hanging open, I think is not a good move on the team's part. And it's a little surprising that, again, that this is happening. So, yeah, this is definitely a surprise that he wants the long-term deal from us. I thought he would want to move on and, not have to be the little brother to Jonathan Allen and be kind of the man, so to speak, on a defensive line somewhere else. So little bit shocking. So this may be something, to see here in case if we don't start playing well, will there be a flare up with him and maybe another player or anything like that?
I understand Duron Payne's case, and I'm a huge Duron Payne supporter. I think he brings a lot to this team and a lot to the defensive line. I love his attitude. But I think Duron is on a self-inflicted character assassination campaign over the last year or so that's not helping his case, especially with fans in DC, right?
Yeah.
The John Allen fight. No, I didn't hear anybody walking away from that situation saying, "Oh, that's John Allen's fault." I think I might have said that, and I think I was the only one, right?
Right.
Where I said Allen should have handled it better himself because he's the leader, but that was not a good look for Daron Payne, right?
Yeah.
Especially in a situation where there's going to be a need for a contract in the very near future. And then right after that situation, and of course, that was against the Cowboys, was it not? Like our division rivals, we
They
were
were
getting
blowing us out
clubbed.
Yeah.
It was
So,
bad. And then he goes and deletes all the stuff off of his Instagram or his social media.
Oh,
And
but it got
then,
worse. His father then made comments about the situation between him and Payne. So then when you have family members piling in on it too, it gets worse from there.
exactly. And what happens is fans don't take your side in those situations, especially if you're the one who's coming across as throwing a tantrum. I'm not saying that's what Payne is doing because I don't know the inner workings of that situation, but that's how it comes across. And then you come into this year and listen, if there's one thing in sports that you don't do, and if you played sports before, and I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast have in some form or fashion, but there's one thing in sports you never, ever, ever do, and that's quit on your team, right? And when you're walking off from practice in the middle of practice, that's how it's going to be perceived. Maybe your teammates in the locker room understand, but the fans don't.
That's right.
They don't. They view that as you are quitting on this team and your brothers in the huddle and this organization. It is very difficult to come back from that. And also, Brian, look, they're not hammering out a Duron Payne contract tonight. And if they don't have a Terry McLaurin contract, it ain't going to be a Duron Payne contract until that gets done, if there is one. So
That's
when
right.
does he come back to practice, right? Because if you walked off practice today and you're back at practice tomorrow, bro, that's so weak. That's
Yeah,
not going to happen. You understand what I mean? So, like, to me, he's effectively out for the rest of the off season, right? Until at least Terry's deal is done, right?
Yep. And I wonder too if the team may have seen some of this coming, and if that may have pushed their desire to get that defensive tackle, because we all thought, okay, yeah, should we draft a defensive tackle? Sure. Should it be the second round pick though? I think that was probably the big thing. If we would have drafted Fidarian in the 5th round, I don't think too many people would have been upset. But we got him in the 2nd round. So I wonder if the team may have gotten or may have, known some of this irritation was coming or was going to come from Payne and said, we've got to figure out a way to kind of stem this a little bit. And let's go get that replacement now. So that makes me, it makes me kind of, rethink the Fidarian Mathis pick now with this, because he's, just like you said, Daron Payne's kind of put himself into this position now where he's got to now sit out, because if he comes back, no one's going to take him serious that he was really upset about a contract. So that's going to put a lot of pressure on Mathis to be that number 2 defensive tackle right off right from the jump. And also too, I wonder, these guys, these players, man, they must be getting some bad information or bad advice from these agents to tell them, hey, why don't you walk off in the middle of practice or right after practice? Just don't
Yeah,
show up. Just don't
yeah.
come to practice. Like, why would you walk off in the middle of it, or scrub your social media, or hey, let's have some family members chime in about this as well too. Like, I feel bad for some of them because I think they just get such awful advice. Just like you said, like the practice thing is a prime example. Like if the fans don't like it, it's going to make your case that much worse.
You know, how I love to compare how the NFL is transitioning really into an NBA model, right? And this is a very NBA thing to do, right? Where like James Harden won't dress. Ben Simmons, for God's sakes, right? Refuses to play. It's
Yep.
that kind of situation where, look, did that situation help Ben Simmons develop relationships with any of his teammates? Absolutely not. It essentially destroyed every relationship he had with his teammates by not playing. It is a very serious thing to walk off in the middle of practice or a game, right? Especially in a game. But we're talking about practice, right? On your teammates, because they're out there sweating, busting their butt, and you're like, I'm out of here. It's just he's going to have a lot. In my opinion, he probably already had a lot of work to do to win back the locker room. And now, if he does stay, he is just creating a laundry list of things that he's going to have to do to get back in the good graces of that locker room. Like he's really, really making it tough on himself.
Yeah.
And what do you do? When you quit, right? You give your backup the second round pick, presumably more reps to show what he can do.
Exactly.
Right?
So even if you did try to come back, it may be too late. They may have just moved on and said, okay, well, you're going to be the backup now, or you're going to be the third string guy, because Fidarian has in that amount of time, like Fidarian, people say not a whole lot of upside, but he's ready to play now. So Duron better be careful, because Fidarian can literally come in and play from day one and may play well. We hope, anyways. But he's not somebody who needs a lot of time to develop. He's going to be able to play day one. I mean, they literally, him and Allen, they all came from the same place, right? They all have kind of essentially the same background, the same kind of foundation to build on. So this is I hope it works out for Payne. Whatever way he wants. But I was just thinking about his contract, right? Like Jonathan Allen is the team captain, and he has put up production, statistics behind that to get that contract. Yeah. Could you imagine if the team said, you know what, we're going to pay you, Duron, and they paid him more than Jonathan Allen? He goes back into that locker room. He's not a team captain, doesn't have the production, and he's got a bigger contract than Jonathan Allen. I just feel like that would be upsetting to a lot of guys in that locker room to be like, this guy's produced, he's the leader, but you got more money. So I think it's just a tough situation that they unneeded. They didn't need to be like this, but they've made it like this.
Yeah, and I don't think Payne's contract would come anywhere close to Allen's. I hear your point, but they're not in the same ballpark, in my opinion, in terms of compensation. At least I wouldn't think they would be. But if Payne gets cut, then he's not getting a good deal. At least he's going to get a proven deal. Absolutely. So anyway, all right, let's move on. So Bram Weinstein reported that Antonio Gibson at OTAs looks lean and mean. Like he gained some weight on his lower half of his body. He's cut his body fat down by 4%. I think he was 18%.
Nice.
No, 6%. I'm sorry. I think they say he's now down to 12% or something like that.
Okay.
So look, this might be the first season in which Gibson is taking this thing very seriously, right? And maybe the drafting of Brian Robinson motivated him, or maybe it's just him understanding how good he possibly can be at the running back position and just self-motivating to get to his peak in terms of his performance. I know you're a huge Brian Robinson supporter, but does this excite you to hear about Gibson and what he's doing and his commitment?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't have anything against Gibson. My mentality when it comes to football is, hey, if I can get better production from the next guy, then so be it. Like, I I have very little patience when it comes to, the players on the team and their performance and their production, especially if you're going to be relied upon to be kind of a focal point of the run game, then you've got to produce. We can't be waiting on you. But no, I don't have any issue with Antonio Gibson, and I do like the fact that he's taken it serious. Whether that was because it was the drafting of Brian Robinson, or whether, just like you said, he's matured to the point where he's like, you know what, this is my job, this is my craft. I'm going to work at it. I'm going to get better at it. I'm going to figure out the fumbling problem. I'm going to kind of study these rush lanes and my offensive linemen and how they block and see those lanes better. I'm all for it, because if Gibson performs like how he can perform and should perform, then that's awesome. Then, I think you projected him to have 1,300 some yards, 1,400, then he should get that. If not, then there is a guy who is a no-nonsense runner who will do what he's not able to do. So I think the competition is good. And if Gibson certainly has the tools to be, an all-pro running back, he just needs to put it together. And if this is the start of it, let's do it. I'm all for it.
Yeah, we have commented, maybe not on the podcast, but just about the lack of physical conditioning that you saw with Gibson in previous seasons. So, one of the telltale signs about how seriously athletes take their career is how they take care of their body, right? Because their body really is, their value, for lack of a better term. It's what brings them the monetary gains that they get in their sport, right? Because if a running back shows up looking like me, what are they going to do with him? They're going to put him on the defensive line. So, their physical form is everything. And so, to hear that Gibson, who is uber talented, has been productive in his time in the league, finally saying to himself and the organization, look, my health and nutrition is important to me. I'm going to take this more seriously. Look, that is so encouraging. Because, look, those things make such a significant difference in terms of performance, right? Because you're talking about, the most minuscule factors resulting in a 10th of a point faster in your 40, or, things like that. Gibson was already fast, but, that makes such a huge difference on the football field that, I'm a huge Gibson supporter. If you've been listening or watching for a while, you know this.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. And, I keep going back to that comp that Manny Benton gave us of Joe Mixon. Look, weighing less and being in better shape can help you read defenses better, but it can help you get to where you're trying to go faster, right? It can help with durability, right? It can, which has been an issue. Let's be clear. And now they also said that he's been walking around all off season with a weighted football to help with the fumbling situation.
Okay.
And Bram said that the team felt like some of the fumbles were due to the injury concerns that he had last year. Now, whether or not you buy that, that's up to you. But I just feel like maybe in his third season, he's finally saying to himself, look, I can be great at this. I want to be great at this. Let me show you I can be great at this. And look, if it took drafting another kid in the third round for him to get there, so be it. Yeah. So be it. Because if Gibson is, a top 5 running back in the league, then I don't care about that pick that we spent on Brian Robinson.
Like, Brian Robinson can ride the bench or be cut or be traded. Like, if Gibson does what he's supposed to do, the team would have no issue, letting go of Brian Robinson, trading him or whatever. And if that's all it took, that's excellent. But that's great that you mentioned that he's been working on the fumbling, or he's been using a weighted football to, as a drill to, help with that issue, because, that's something that, has plagued him these first 2 years. And, we haven't heard a whole lot about what, the remedy was going to be for that. I can remember, Tiki Barber with the Giants when he had his fumbling issue, and there wasn't necessarily as much social media then, but it was always talked about. He was trying different ball positions. He was holding the ball different. He was staying late at practice. We didn't get that here with Gibson. It was just kind of like, well, it'll work itself out. Well, that's not That's not what happens with problems. If you don't address them, they get worse and they get bigger. So that's good that he's attacking it. That's good that his nutrition has changed, his body fat is down, and that he's taking some things more seriously because, hey, like if this team wants to go where we all want it to go, which is deep in the playoffs, they all got to get more serious. Ron Rivera included, the players, Del Rio, Dirt, like everybody's got to get more serious about their craft and how they go about, the game of football. So I'm all for it. I love hearing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and not specifically about on the field at OTAs, but Rivera did say it at OTAs. He said he's trying to recreate the Carolina Panther backfield.
Oh,
With
surprise.
D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart, right?
Yes, those are the two guys.
Tell me what kind of mental space that put you in when you heard that quote from Rivera.
So one of the things I, kind of noticed about, Rivera, really from last year is he's a man of habit. He's a creature of habit, a creature of familiarity. And if you look at, these 2020 season, 2021 season, now heading into his third season here, he has, obviously all the free agents are Panthers players, right? Former Panthers players. But if you look at the way he's building this team, he's building it in the image of that 15-1 team that he had in Carolina, having that stout defensive line. He's trying to find this Luke Kuechly-esque middle linebacker that seems to be eluding him at every turn. He can't seem to get that one right. He's trying to get, some of these receivers, but he's really been trying to get, a running game that suits him. He thought he had a Christian McCaffrey, didn't work out, or it hasn't worked out yet, I should say, because it could still happen. But he's going back to this, D'Angelo Williams, Jonathan Stewart type. And, one of the things that, made me put my attention on Brian Robinson back in February is that he reminded me of Jonathan Stewart. And Ron's a pretty simple guy. Like if you listen to him and you look at his actions, he'll tell you kind of what he's thinking of what he's trying to do. And he just reminded me of Jonathan Stewart. And I was like, that's what they want to do. They want to have a guy to run up the middle, and then they want to have a guy who can catch the screen passes, who can take some of the tosses, who they can put in space, who they can throw some passes to and do those things. And I thought, man, that would just make sense here. And then it ended up happening. So, Ron, at every turn is trying to recreate things that are familiar, that are comfortable to him. And, to a lot of the chagrin of Washington fans, that is his time in Carolina. And he's doing it to the T. He's got a lot of the coaches, a lot of the front office people, and he's got a lot of the players here.
Let's hope it produces similar success, because look, I love the idea of being 15-1, but the NFL is a completely different NFL now than it was during that 15-1 season, right?
Absolutely.
So, switching gears again, Chase Young. Let's talk some Chase Young because, look, people love to hate Chase Young. I don't know why, but they do. So Grant Paulson put out a tweet that I thought was interesting. I will say that. I mean, when I say interesting, I feel like it's fanning the flames of a fire that doesn't need to be lit right now. But he said that Rivera told reporters on March 29th that he expected Chase Young to be at OTAs. Chase Young was not there to start OTAs today as he continues to rehab away from the team in Colorado. And he adds this line here. He says, perhaps he meant later in OTAs and minicamp, right? Listen, it's a multi-factor thing, right? Because you're looking at it through the prism of Chase Young was not at OTAs last year, and people directly correlate some of Chase Young's struggles in terms of the sack department to him not being here. Flip the script. Now we're here this year. Chase Young is not there at the beginning of OTAs. He is rehabbing, though. Give me your concern level 1 to 10 that Chase Young is not at OTAs at this point.
So 1 to 10, my concern level right now is very low. I'm at a 3. I'm not very worried because this is it's voluntary. It's not mandatory that he's there, but also a lot is drills, making sure guys are in shape, seeing what they look like, how they run, how they jump. Just kind of getting them familiar with terminology. A lot of basic things are happening right now. So the part where, they're installing the defense, installing the offense, those kinds of things are going to be coming up, though. They're coming up in a couple of weeks. But for right now, I'm not that worried. And also, he's rehabbing a major injury. Get that healed first. I don't need him out here trying to show us how strong he is, or if he's got some new rip move or swim move and his leg's not healed up, and then he ends up re-tearing the leg because he's out here, trying to impress for the fans or for the media. So get your leg healed up first. That's what I'm more concerned about. And when we were going over his projections, why I was a little low on him, because I think, he's probably, he does have, a long road to recovery, and he may miss, some time. So I'm not very concerned about it now. I know it's going to get played up in the media that, this is concerning or anything like that, but I'm not very concerned, and I don't think fans should be either, because we're talking about a handful of days. If 5 days or 4 days, whatever it may be, means that we're going to have a bad season, then I mean we probably already lost the season then if that's the case. So I'm not very worried.
Yeah, I get it, wanting him to be around the team. Same thing we said about Terry, right? Building camaraderie, playing next to the players that you're going to be fighting in the trenches with and everything like that. But
I will say, the only thing that is slightly concerning is, right, we went through all this last offseason, right? Last offseason, he had, I think it was Family Feud, and he had some commercials that he was doing. Right. The season went how it did. You had your injuries. They should have, discussed this beforehand and have already had a plan. And Rivera and Chase should have been on the same page, whether or not it was that he rehabs away from the team or he comes here and rehab, because I believe Logan Thomas, who has the same injury or a similar injury, was here. He was at, OTAs, and he was, he was just rehabbing with the team standing there, but he was still here. Whatever Rivera and Chase, they should have had this figured out, and they both should have been on the same page. And Ron should have been like, "Oh, we got a plan for him. He's going to rehab out in Colorado, and he'll be back here next week." It shouldn't be this guesswork of I think he's going to come, or maybe he comes next week. To me, that speaks to some type of communication issue or lack thereof, or people wanting to do their own things. And I think that is a dangerous part right there. They should have had all that done. However they wanted to work it out, they should have just worked it out.
Yeah, the messaging, right? The messaging is off a little bit, but it doesn't mean that it's going to result in any implosions or impending doom or anything like that. Exactly. Chase Young's, this is going to be, his third season in the NFL. So I think that he's kind of figured out what it takes to be a pro by now. So I trust what he's going to do. This is a tremendous year for Chase Young, though, I got to tell you, in terms of really winning people over. In terms of performance.
Let me ask you this about Chase. And, I've heard other athletes say this, that it's really difficult, especially for a young player who gets like an injury like Chase. Not so much the injury itself, is that when you're a young player, you're still working on your craft, right? He's not a 10-year vet where he understands all the techniques that are needed to be. It's just about keeping his body in shape. But when you're a young player, you're still trying to learn the craft. You learn different moves, learn techniques, learn, which guys you can do what moves with in what situations. But he can't even do that now because a lot of his time is just rehab focused. So you're trying to juggle both of those things, coming off a rehab, off a severe injury, and maybe sometimes, the learning of the craft stuff goes away, and you're not able to work on that skill, that pass rush course, because you're just, rehabbing. You think does any of that worry you as he heads into this third year, which like you just said is an important year for him?
Yeah, it's kind of like, again, the NBA, where, NBA players in the offseason add a new move to their game, right? It's a post up or something. The NFL is very similar in that. But I will say not really, because there's still training camp. I mean, there's so much of the offseason still left, right? If this was like late July, then I'm like, red alert, right? But we're not close to that yet. So we still have time. Whether or not he's going to be able to participate in any kind of preseason activities, I'm not sure, but I would much rather him heal up and be healthy for the actual season, or at least as much of it as possible, rather than him show up in OTAs and just kind of go through the motions there. So
absolutely.
So I'm going to be out at OTAs next week, hopefully. If I can get all worked out, I will be out at OTAs. I will get you guys some information on what's going on out there, clue you guys in. But again, Sticking with the OTA thing, Pete Haley put out a photo today of AGG working with the tight ends. Looks like he's put on a little weight, right? He looks like a giant. I got to tell you, man. Like, he's a big guy, but he really looked like a giant in shorts and in a jersey today. Are you excited for the prospect of him playing tight end? And do you think he can make any headway in the OTAs?
And I say this not because I have any issue or I'm not hating on AGG. I mean, he's 6'4". I think all of our tight ends are 6'4" or taller. I think Logan Thomas is 6'4", Bates is 6'6", Reyes is 6'5", Cole Turner is 6'5" or 6'6". So they're all big guys. I think probably the lightest one out of all of them is Cole Turner. So, as for a wide receiver body, a lot of those guys who are wide receiver, it's hard for them to put on weight. Like they're not like, I wish I knew what that problem was like, but those guys, they can eat a bag of Oreos and lose 5 pounds. So, the fact that he looks bigger is good for him because he's going to have to keep that weight on all year, right? For 17 weeks. So that's something he's going to have to get used to carrying that. So, I mean, I think that's a good first step, but I mean, he wasn't a very good blocker as a wide receiver. And now, blocking cornerbacks, a 200 and 190-pound cornerback is one thing. Blocking a 260-pound defensive end or an outside linebacker who is just mean and angry and nasty is a completely different thing. I get it. He's more there for the receiving end of it. But, in the offense that we've seen so far with the tight ends, they like their guys to do both. Because otherwise it's just going to be a tell. If Cole Turner or AGG's on the field, I know they're throwing at him. I know that they're not going to be running the football because if they are, it'll probably be for a loss. I hope, it works for him because it didn't work at wide receiver. And I don't know about you. I think, being a taller wide receiver in this offense kind of hurts the wide receiver. So, I mean, I don't know why he wants to make the team, but I feel like he probably could have caught on with another team as a wide receiver as opposed to having to kind of bulk up and be a tight end. So the only other thing that I think is working against him is I think we all forgot we don't have Pete Hainer anymore. Pete Hainer is an excellent tight end coach. And if you think about what he did with Reyes, which was teach somebody who has never, played football before enough to get them on a roster, I think he would have been invaluable in helping AGG make this transition from wide receiver to tight end. So I think that's definitely a negative, but that's for all of them now because they all have a brand new tight end coach in Juan Castillo. So I think that's certainly a negative on that, but I wish him luck.
Yeah, I get it, man. You're a hater. You don't like AGG. So, all right, Brian, let's go through a list of things that the Commanders need to accomplish before training camp. All right. So we're going to talk about inclusive OTAs. We're going to talk about mini camps, any of those things. I'm going to let you lead off. Give me one thing that they need to accomplish ahead of training camp.
Ahead of training camp, they need to find some more depth at the linebacker position because essentially right now, all we have is Jamin Davis and Cole Holcomb. And, hey, I think Cole's a solid linebacker, and I think Jamin has the potential to be an excellent linebacker. But that's it. That's all you've got. The other guys are all undrafted players, and they're not very good quality. So we need, probably another veteran. Will we sign one? Probably not. We're probably just going to run it back with just those two linebackers, but I don't think that's going to be enough to get through an NFL season. So there's got to be some more depth there.
That's a good one. I agree. Mine is we got to get guys healthy, right? We got a lot of key contributors that are coming into the season with injuries. Let's get guys healthy. I want to see Curtis Samuel participating in full without missing days or being on the bike or running on the side field. Let's get Chase progressing in his rehab. Let's get Logan Thomas patched up and ready to go. Let's just get healthy so that, going into training camp, we can get some competitive practices and really work at getting better in the dog days of summer. What do you got next, man?
So my next one is find a veteran pass rusher. We legitimately need a third edge rusher. So, right now we've got Chase Young. He's coming off an injury. We hope that he's there week 1, but we don't know. And we don't know what he'll look like week 1. You've got Montez Sweat, who I think missed today with a personal reason. So he should be there tomorrow is what Rivera said. So he should be healthy too. So that's essentially one guy. And we saw last year, the backups aren't very good. They're not capable of rushing the passer like Chase and like Montez are. So we need a legitimate third edge rusher. Now, we did sign another Carolina guy, F.A. Obata. But he is a backup player. We need somebody who can legitimately get a sack on third down. So I think I saw D Ford from San Francisco as a potential to get released or traded here over the next week or so. We just need somebody else who can rush the passer to kind of help the defense get to where I think they want to go here in this 2022 season.
Yeah. My next one. Let's get our second-year players in gear and going. And I'm talking about Jamin Davis. I'm talking about Sam Cosmi. I'm talking about Benjamin St. Juste. I'm talking about Diami Brown. Let's keep the progression of John Bates. Let's go Derek Forrest. Come on, Cameron Cheeseman. Let's go William Bradley King. Let's go Shaka Tony. Let's go Dax Milne. All of those guys need to show why they were drafted the prior year. And OTAs, minicamp, and leading the training camp is a perfect time to do it. Yeah. Let's get those guys going. What do you got, Brian?
So, I came up with this one. It's a little funny, and it's for Ron Rivera and the team to sign a free agent who has not played for Carolina. It's a little funny, but it's almost a 100% certainty that any free agent. I think we just signed an offensive tackle like 2 days ago, Aaron Montero. If you check out our Commanders offseason tracker, we got all of our offseason signings listed there. But guess what? He's a former Carolina Panther. I mean, we've got to do something here. There are other good players out there. Dion Jones, young middle linebacker from the Atlanta Falcons, is rumored to be on the chopping block and or maybe released or traded here soon because of salary and scheme fit reasons. I mentioned D Ford, edge rusher from San Fran, who's looking to potentially be released as well too. Let's get some additional help. There are other players who are effective who can help this football team who didn't play for Carolina. So let's find somebody new.
Yeah. You know what? It's like I try not to judge, but every report that comes out, you're like, oh, I know where this guy used to play.
Exactly. And I know it's a silly topic, but at some point it's like, come on, man. Like, Ron, you've got to look outside of the little box that you're kind of searching in right now, because there are other good players out there, and we're missing on them if we don't consider them.
Yeah, for sure. Let's protect that football, AG, right? Let's that all that work he's been doing in the off season to become a better ball carrier, right? And protect the football. I want to see it when there's contact of any kind. And now in OTAs, you ain't getting down and dirty, but there's going to be a little bit of trying to rip the ball away. I want to see him protect it. I want to see progression in protecting the football. Brian?
So my other one is, hey, can we get a finalized training camp schedule, itinerary? Like, what's going on here? I feel like it's already been reported that we're not going back to Ashburn for training camp, but we assume that it'll be in Ashburn, but there's no schedule out, like times, like days. What day is Fan Appreciation Day? Like, when, are there going to be any kind of exciting fan events during the training camp? Like, what's going on here? Like that. I feel like that should be already released. I know, this team likes to do things last minute, but let's get some of this information out to the fans early so they can make plans, so they can show up, so we can come check out the team.
Is that your last one, Brian?
That's my last one.
I can't believe you missed this. Let's get Terry signed. That is so huge, and we got to do it. Let's get it done.
I was confused. I felt like we had been talking about it this whole time. So I missed that. I missed that one.
All right. Look, so let's close this on a lighter note. I was looking up something, and I found the NFL mock draft database. And speaking of our 2021 picks, here's what they graded them at the time. I'm gonna let you guess, Brian.
Okay.
Jamin Davis. What grade did they give Jamin Davis? The pick of Jamin
Probably
Davis. Excuse me.
probably a B plus.
They gave it an F. They said it was a reach's reach. Yeah.
Okay.
How about Sam Cosmi?
B plus.
I gave it a B. I don't think they do pluses. I haven't seen
Oh,
a
it's
plus.
just A or B. Okay. All right.
St. Juice.
D.
Yes, spot on. They gave it
Yeah.
a D last year
I mean,
in the third round.
What he is?
They said that was a reach. Diami Brown. What grade did he get?
A.
According to yes, NFL mock draft database gave
He
him.
was a hot pick. People were talking about him late first round. I remember.
Yes, absolutely. John Bates. What they give him?
John Bates, I think they gave a B to as well.
They gave it a D, actually.
Ooh, man.
Yep.
Oh.
Derek Forrest.
Oh, that's an F.
They gave that a C, believe it or not. Yeah.
It must have been the other Derek Forrest.
Right. Cameron Cheeseman, who we traded up for, would they give that one?
That's an F. We traded up for that guy.
Yeah, that is an F. William Bradley King. What do you got?
The technician. D.
He got a B.
Wow.
Believe it or not. Yeah.
Okay.
Shaka Tony. What did he get?
Oh, they got a B too.
They got an A for Shaka Tony.
Really? A?
Yeah. Wow. They like Shaka Tony.
All
and
right.
lastly, Dax Milne. What grade did they give him?
C.
They gave him a B. So, yeah, not bad. Look, but the important thing is that those guys produce something, on the field this year. Your rookie year, you get an excuse, you get a little bit of a pass because you're adjusting to a league like you've never played in before. But this year, we got to get production out of those guys, especially since we didn't go crazy in the offseason and sign a bunch of dudes,
Well, and I wonder too, like if you think about kind of that back half of that draft class there, a lot of those guys barely played anything. Like William Bradley King, Shaka Tony, Dax Milne, Derek Forrest. Those guys barely played at all. So I wonder if it was just a matter of we had some guys ahead of them, or was it just a hey they weren't ready yet to get on the field because. I mean, some of those guys maybe have 10 snaps all year. Like William Bradley King, I don't know how many games he played, like 1 or 2. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was not a lot. So, I should check the stats before I say that, just because they don't jump off on the screen and you're like, hey, I noticed something, So I don't want to say that. It's funny. Doc Walker just messaged me and he said, he said, you just informed me that AGG changed positions. I guess he didn't know. Wow. Okay. Shout out to Doc Walker, by the way.
Doc's the man.
Yeah, he is the man. All right. Brian, any other things? Any final thoughts on the way out?
No, I'm just kind of excited just to see what else we can see with some of these rookies, how they look, and then with Carson, how he looks. I watching some of those videos today. It's very noticeable that Carson, whatever you think about him, good, bad, he is a professional quarterback. He's a legitimate starter in the NFL, like size and the arm talent, like. Just watching him, the ball had a lot of velocity and zip to it. So that was nice to see. Doesn't mean it'll translate to anything. Hopefully it does, but it was nice to see that we've got somebody legitimate. And we're not talking about, well, he's undrafted, he's got this deficiency, that kind of thing. So that was nice. That was nice to see him out there, throwing the ball around.
It was, and of course the thing that you hear from the local reporters is just. Number one, he's a giant. And number two, the arm is just, electric in comparison to what we've had here before. So there are, reasons to be excited about him being in town. And look, what I'm going to say is there's a lot of storylines, if you can't tell, that what we covered on here, but not all of them are big storylines. You're going to hear a lot about it on social media. You're going to hear a lot about it on TV and other places. But, remain calm, right? It's early. There's time. We can build on these things. Situations can improve. Let's stay locked in, Commanders, and We will catch you next time.
Oh, we got one thing. The we've got a whole bunch of blogs of pieces that we put up on our website. We've got a Fidarian Mathis blog. We've got a blog about the potential to acquire 200 acres of land by the Commanders. We've got a blog up there about Dan Snyder with owners. Are they counting votes? Are they not counting votes? We've got all kinds of things up there. We've got stuff about Jahan Dotson on there. AGG, the move to tight end. We've got a piece up there. So go check out our website. It's WFTDeclassified.com. We've got all kinds of great things up there. We've also got interviews that we've done previously. We've got some new ones that are in the works that are coming up that you guys will love. So please check that out. You can also subscribe to the website. That way, when we drop a new piece, you guys are the first to know. But that's it. That's all I had.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Go to WFTDeclassified.com. Check it every day. Bookmark it. If you don't want to subscribe, just bookmark it because we're putting out stuff constantly. Man, we dropped so much stuff, as Brian said, this week. And we appreciate all the people reading our content this week. It's been insane how many people have gone out and consumed our stuff. So, look, peace and blessings to everybody. We will catch you on the flip side. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. We are